Ottawa's Best Rock 106.9, The Bear, Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil. I'm Scotty Myers with Jeff Waters from Annihilator, Canada's biggest metal band, and you smile every time I say that and kind of laugh at me.
Yeah, it is kind of funny, especially to hear it here in Ottawa. I was telling you earlier, this is, I believe, my first radio interview since 1990.
But you're a hometown boy. Where's the love?
I don't know. We got to find out.
There's some sort of telethon for you or something.
It went overseas.
It takes a maritimer to get an Ottawa guy on the radio. Let's put it that way. Your show this Saturday night at Obsession Live Lounge, you're doing something kind of cool because you have a new album coming out at the end of the month. And instead of having like an opening act or anything, you're doing a listening party for the new album beforehand. How did you come up with that idea? Because that's kind of unique and pretty cool. Yeah,
usually with Annihilator, we've had mainly success in Europe and Asia and South America. So whenever we rehearse for a tour or festival run, we would rehearse in Ottawa quietly and then get on the plane a couple of days over there and play. Or we rehearse in Frankfurt, Germany. And my guitar player Dave Padden said, well, why don't we start like playing a club show to warm up for this stuff rather than jumping in front of a whole pile of people when we get off the plane and no practice for a few days. So we started doing some local shows, and we just decided we have a record coming out. It's finally going to be released in Canada and United States on EMI, which is a big deal for us, at the end of August. And we decided, well, what the heck? We have a lot of friends, of course. I grew up here in Ottawa, and we have a lot of friends here. So let's just not just play another hour and a half 2 hour show. Let's just sit around with everybody beforehand, give them some food and booze, give away some guitars, and play the new album and see what our friends think. Yeah,
it's a very, very cool idea that I think once more people hear about it, they're going to rip you off. Because I think it's a good idea for a new album, especially in this new age of trying to get music out there and getting people to hear new stuff. It's not easy.
Well, we got to get the word out. We got 4 days until this one happens. So yeah, the original's happening in 4 days.
We are going to get as many people in there as we can. Now, as I said, you're Canada's biggest metal band. There's so many great Canadian metal bands like yourself, Devin Townsend, Kitty, 3 Inches of Blood, Baptized in Blood. I love that we synced up on that.
Yeah, that's good.
How frustrating is it for you, though, that all these bands kind of have to leave Canada to get any love?
Well, I mean, some do, some don't. I mean, if the odds are better if you sign directly to a Canadian record company to start your career. Of course, you're going to get all the love from the people in Canada in the industry and radio and record companies that, quote, discovered you and want to make you famous here. And it doesn't always happen, but that's where you're more guaranteed, or your odds are to get more success in Canada. Or you go outside of Canada and you've got radio hits, or you're just so big in the States or Europe that Canada has to take you back and do something. You got the Dave Matthews, the Tragically Hip. You've got so many of these bands that are so well known in Canada that haven't sold any records outside of the country.
Yeah.
And then you have guys like Danko Jones, Devin Townsend, Annihilator, that don't sell many records, get any attention really here in Canada, yet they can play in front of 50,000 people in Europe. So
yeah, and that's what Danko has said to me before, that it's just like, I can play in front of massive crowds in Europe, so why do I want to struggle when I can...
Yeah, I find this, touring the world for 25 years, the world less Canada and the United States since 1993, I do find that Canada is one of those freak countries in the sense that it happens to be one of the best countries in the world to live in. And we wave the flag for Canada every time we leave this country. But it is kind of weird in the sense that the music business has a lot of those cases where we have such amazing talent here, and some of it's big in Canada and can't sell anything outside, and some of it's you get the other ones that are famous everywhere. Avril Lavigne's, Bryan Adams, and
yeah, those guys. But I mean,
Rush,
but there is
of course.
Rush, yes, of course. But you're right. There is this kind of weird, like, they're big in Canada, nowhere else, or they're big everywhere else except Canada. But speaking of Canadian metal, of course, we've had the metal big four with Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax.
We need the little four next.
What would be, in your mind, maybe the Canadian big four?
I already know that.
The Canadian big four.
Oh, Canadian big
Canadian big four.
Oh, I was going to cheat and say Testament, Exodus, Overkill, Annihilator, but if you're going to go Canadian on me, you know what? You got me on that one. Next question. You got me. I mean, it would be not exactly a metal thing, but it would be Devin Townsend, Danko Jones, which is more hard rock punk than metal.
Yes.
And I remember a band years ago that was fantastic called Razor. They were just so good in the early days. But
I was thinking Voivod might make that list.
yeah, Voivod's on the. Yeah, there's so many great influential early bands. Razor, Anvil, Exciter's first couple of records were internationally very influential, and they didn't necessarily sell a lot, but they were very influential on the bands that were to come, like Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, Exodus.
Those guys, yeah. Okay, so you said on to the next question. I asked on Facebook if there was anything anybody wanted me to ask you, and Jenna wanted to know how big, to put it nicely, your whammy bar is.
Oh, baby.
And
I don't have one. Actually, I have.
I was saying that figuratively, whammy bar.
Okay.
So you're.
You mean guitar?
No, your whammy bar. You're on
I'm
your
totally
body.
Confused.
Well, I'm putting it radio friendly.
How big?
There you go. She's got it. She's got it.
Well, you know what? You should get my fiance Yasmina to answer that question, just so I don't get put in a bad position here.
She's smiling, so I'm going to take that as a good sign.
Yeah. What can I say? I'm an average guy.
So that's what Jenna wanted to know, and I said maybe you can send her a pic.
Well, is it a pick? Did you say pick?
A pick, a picture.
I see.
Not
Okay.
a guitar pick. I gotta rephrase everything. You're a big guitar dude. Being such a big guitar guy and, hell of a player, when you look out there now and you see some of these guitarists, who do you think is really good, maybe underrated, not getting the respect they deserved?
Oh, I don't know. The thing is, okay, to set this up, I used to listen, when I was a teenager, I would listen to music and play guitar 10 hours a day for sure. And the thing is, when you're going so long playing music for this many years and you're writing, recording, and touring and doing this stuff, and I also have a recording studio I've had one since 95. So when you get away from all these jobs and all this stuff in music, you go home, you don't want to listen to anything else. So I'm actually pretty bad for that. I just put on the old classic metal and heavy metal and thrash metal stuff and maybe a bit of Friday Night in San Francisco, Al Di Meola, Paco de Lucia, John McLaughlin, Spanish Flamingo type stuff. So I don't really listen to much music. I don't keep up too much on new bands unless they're the almost new bands like the Triviums, the Children of Bodoms, Lamb of Gods, people that I know as friends and who I check out, A, because I have to, B, because I want to. But guys like the guys in Trivium, they're not really considered, thrash metal, and they're not considered, they're more... I think they're considered by a lot of heavier metal fans to be more of a radio or a poppier kind of newer metal style, whatever it is. But Corey and Matt, Corey's guitar player, Matt's a singer and guitar player. Those kids, we toured with them for about 3 months in Europe a few years back, and we would just go out sightseeing in the day and do stuff, and we would just walk by their dressing room and we'd see, or they'd have a tuning room or whatever it's called, and they would be sitting in there downloading tabs and music sheets, and they would sit there and practice like 6 hours a day, scales, and they were just learning and learning. And those guys, and Alexi from Children of Bodom, these guys are from the old school where you sat down and you played 10 hours a day on guitar and you learned your instrument. You didn't just learn 3 chords, jump up and down, dye your hair red like Flea and jump up and down, which Flea's amazing, obviously, but that's what happened in the 90s is a lot of college kids were picking up a guitar, playing 3 chords and calling it pop punk and really didn't know what a lead guitar was or what guitar really was. They may have had good songs, but they weren't from that really old school of Randy Rhoads, Eddie Van Halen, Judas Priest.
Well, there's a generation that grew up on 90s music that I think don't know what a guitar solo is.
Yeah, but the good thing is it's coming back, and it's been coming back for quite a few years now, and guys like Alexi and the Trivium guys and Lamb of God, all these other bands that are not new, but semi-new, at least compared to my band. These guys are all from the older school. They're picking up on, wait a sec, to play Randy Rhoads style guitar or Van Halen or this, you have to actually learn this stuff and work hard at it. So that's great that this kind of stuff is coming back, the practicing and all that. But I don't know too many, as soon as I get off air, I'll think of 20 people, so...
That's always the way, though. And you can tell when you talk about Bodom, you can tell the craftsman and musicianship that those guys are almost by the covers that they do, because they take these songs that shouldn't sound good as a metal song.
Yeah. Bananarama cover coming up on their Japanese release. I played a solo on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Alexi got a hold of me and says, Jeff, I played a solo on your record a couple years ago, Annihilator CD, so you owe me one. So I did a solo for him off the new record on the Japanese version, and it's a Bananarama cover song. It's just great. You know
awesome.
What I love about that band is, it's not, a stereotype, but generally from the travels, it seems like U.S. fans take it more seriously and want that screaming or more of that aggression and seriousness in the anger or the aggression in the music. Europeans have a little bit of, Canadianism there in common, where sometimes you can write goofy songs like Kraft Dinner or Chicken and Corn, the ones we were joking about that I wrote years ago, and actually put on a metal album. But there's a sense of humor with Bodum, and they're able to, and I can totally relate to that. These guys are goofy and have fun.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I put in my music. But that also makes a lot of Americans and even some Canadian metal fans go, what the heck is this, right?
The number of people I've played Bodum's Party All the Time for, it's like they did a cover of an Eddie Murphy song.
Yeah, right.
And it's amazing, and people are like, well, how does this even exist? And it's like, well, because they can. Like,
they have fun.
Yeah.